Homeless girl begs Keanu Reeves for help. He notices something important and takes action. It was a chilly afternoon in downtown Los Angeles, where the hum of city life blended into a constant background noise of car engines, honking horns, and the rhythmic chatter of pedestrians. Amidst the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, Keanu Reeves stepped out of a modest coffee shop, a steaming cup of black coffee in his hand. Dressed in a simple black jacket, jeans, and his signature boots, Keanu exuded an air of quiet humility. He adjusted his scarf against the biting wind and began walking towards the parking lot where his motorcycle waited. As he strolled along the busy sidewalk, lost in thought, a soft, trembling voice cut through the urban symphony. "Excuse me, sir. Could you please help me?" Keanu paused, his eyes scanning the crowd until they settled on the source of the voice. A young girl, no older than 10, stood a few feet away. Her clothes were ragged and oversized, her shoes mismatched, and her thin frame trembled slightly from the cold. Her eyes, wide and dark, held a mixture of desperation and determination as she looked up at him. Keanu crouched down to her level, setting his coffee cup on a nearby ledge. "Hey there," he said softly, his voice warm and gentle. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, her gaze darting nervously around the crowded street before she answered in a small voice. "Maya." "It's nice to meet you, Maya," Keanu said, offering a reassuring smile. "How can I help you?" Maya glanced behind her, as if checking for someone, before whispering, "I'm hungry, and I need help finding my mom." Keanu's brow furrowed as he took in the girl's fragile appearance, and the fear etched across her face. He had encountered his share of difficult situations, but something about Maya's plea struck a chord deep within him. "Are you alone?" he asked gently. She nodded, biting her lower lip to hold back tears. "She was with me, but now I can't find her. She said she'd come back, but it's been so long." Keanu's heart ached at her words. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a few bills, handing them to her. "Here, let's get you something to eat first, okay? There's a diner right across the street." "I'll go with you." Maya hesitated, clutching the money tightly, before giving a small nod. Together, they crossed the street to a small, cozy diner with neon signs flickering in the windows. Inside, the warmth of the place enveloped them, and the tantalizing smell of frying bacon and fresh coffee filled the air. Keanu guided Maya to a booth and waved over a waitress. "Get her whatever she wants," he said with a kind smile. The waitress, a woman in her late 40s with kind eyes, nodded and handed Maya a menu. While Maya ordered, Keanu took a moment to study her. There was something about her that seemed out of place, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Her mannerisms were careful, almost too careful for a child her age, as if she was constantly aware of her surroundings. When the food arrived, Maya devoured it with an urgency that tugged at Keanu's heart. He waited patiently, sipping his coffee, until she finally looked up at him with a small smile of gratitude. "Thank you, mister," she said softly. "You're welcome," Keanu replied. "Now, about your mom. Do you know where she might have gone?" Maya's expression grew somber. "She said she was going to find a job, but that was weeks ago. She told me to wait in the park, but I got scared when it got dark, so I've been walking around." Keanu's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the situation. "Do you have any family or friends nearby? Someone who could help?" Maya shook her head. "It's just me and my mom." The sound of approaching sirens briefly filled the diner, and Maya flinched, her eyes darting toward the window. Keanu noticed her reaction and placed a reassuring hand on the table. "It's okay. You're safe here." Her gaze met his, and for a moment, Keanu saw a depth of pain and resilience that belied her young age. He took a deep breath and made a decision. "Maya, I'm going to help you find your mom. But first, we need to make sure you're safe. Is there somewhere you've been staying?" Maya hesitated before shaking her head. "I've been sleeping outside. Sometimes, people let me stay in their doorway." Keanu's chest tightened at her words. He leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. "That's not okay. We need to find you a safe place to stay. There are shelters nearby. Let me take you to one." Maya's eyes widened with fear. "No, please, don't take me to a shelter. I'm scared they'll take me away from my mom." Keanu nodded slowly, understanding her fear. All right, but you can't keep sleeping on the streets. I'll figure something out, okay? Maya's shoulders relaxed slightly, and she gave a hesitant nod. Keanu paid the bill and led her outside. The evening air was growing colder, and he noticed Maya shivering. Without a word, he slipped off his jacket and draped it over her small shoulders. As they walked back toward the parking lot, Keanu's mind raced with possible solutions. He couldn't simply leave her alone, but he also didn't want to scare her by involving authorities too soon. When they reached his motorcycle, Keanu knelt down to her level again. Maya, I have a friend who runs a safe house for kids. It's not a shelter, just a place where you can sleep and eat while we figure things out. Would that be okay? Maya hesitated, her small hands clutching the edges of his jacket. Finally, she nodded. Okay. Keanu smiled gently and handed her a helmet. Good. Let's go. The ride to the safe house was quiet, with Maya holding on tightly to Keanu as they weaved through the city streets. When they arrived, Keanu introduced her to his friend, a woman named Clara who greeted Maya with a warm smile and a cup of hot cocoa. You're safe here, sweetie, Clara said, kneeling to meet Maya's eyes. We'll take care of you. Maya looked up at Keanu, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and lingering fear. You'll come back, right? She asked. Keanu crouched down and placed a hand on her shoulder. I promise. And I'll start looking for your mom first thing tomorrow. Maya's lips quivered, and for the first time, she allowed herself to lean into the comfort of someone who cared. Keanu stayed until she was settled, then stepped outside with Clara. She's been through a lot, Keanu said, his voice heavy with concern. Clara nodded. We'll do everything we can to help her. You're doing a good thing, Keanu. He gave a small, reflective smile. It's the least I can do. But I won't stop until I find her mom. As Keanu rode away into the night, his mind was already working on a plan. The image of Maya's frightened eyes stayed with him, fueling his determination to reunite her with her mother and uncover the truth behind their separation. Keanu woke early the next morning, the faint glow of the sunrise filtering through his apartment's windows. His thoughts immediately turned to Maya. He couldn't shake the image of her frail figure trembling in the cold, her wide eyes filled with fear and hope. There was a heaviness in his chest that he couldn't ignore, and he knew he wouldn't find peace until he uncovered what had happened to her mother. He brewed himself a quick cup of coffee and grabbed his phone. Clara had promised to call if Maya needed anything during the night, but there had been no messages. That was a good sign, at least. Still, he felt an urgency to start his search. He scrolled through his contacts, his finger pausing over the name of an old friend who worked in social services. After a brief moment of hesitation, Keanu dialed. The line buzzed a few times before a familiar voice answered. Keanu? Wow, it's been ages. What's up? Said Lisa, her voice bright and cheerful. Hey, Lisa, Keanu began, his tone serious. I need your help. It's about a little girl I met yesterday. Her name's Maya, and she's looking for her mom. They've been separated, and I think it's more complicated than it seems. Lisa's tone shifted immediately, her professionalism kicking in. Okay, tell me everything you know. Keanu explained the situation as best as he could, recounting Maya's fear, her hesitation about shelters, and her vague story about her mother leaving to find work. Lisa listened intently, asking occasional questions. It sounds like they might be dealing with some serious challenges, Lisa said after a pause. If her mom hasn't returned in weeks, there could be any number of reasons. Have you reported this to the authorities? Keanu hesitated. Not yet. Maya's scared they'll separate her from her mom. I don't want to make things worse for her. I understand, Lisa replied. But if her mom is in trouble or unable to care for her, the authorities need to know. Let me do some digging first. Do you have any more details? A last name, maybe? Keanu frowned. No, she didn't mention one. I'll ask her today. Can you start with local shelters and hospitals? Maybe her mom ended up in one of them. Got it, Lisa said. I'll call you if I find anything. Keanu thanked her and hung up, feeling a small sense of relief. At least he had a plan now. He grabbed his jacket and headed out, determined to check on Maya before continuing his search. When Keanu arrived at Clara's safe house, He found Maya sitting at a small table in the common area, coloring with a set of crayons Clara must have given her. She looked up as he entered, her face lighting up with a shy smile. "You came back," she said softly. "Of course," Keanu replied, crouching beside her. "I promised, didn't I?" Maya nodded, her smile growing a little wider. Keanu noticed she seemed more relaxed today, her shoulders less tense and her eyes less guarded. It was a small victory, but it gave him hope. "I need your help, Maya," he said gently. "Do you remember your mom's full name? It'll help me find her." Maya thought for a moment before nodding. "Her name is Elena Rivera." Keanu repeated the name, committing it to memory. "That's a big help. Do you remember where you lived before she left? Or any friends she might have talked about?" Maya shook her head. "We didn't have a home. We stayed in different places. But she always said we'd have a real home one day." Keanu's heart ached at her words. "Okay, that's enough for now. I'm going to keep looking for her. You stay here with Clara, okay? You're safe here." Maya nodded, her small fingers clutching the crayon she was holding. "Will you find her?" "I'll do my best," Keanu promised. "I won't stop until I do." Leaving the safe house, Keanu drove to the area where he had first met Maya. He walked through the streets, stopping to talk to shopkeepers, street vendors, and anyone who looked like they might have seen something. Most people shook their heads or gave vague answers. But one older woman, a florist setting up her stall, paused when Keanu mentioned Elena Rivera. "I think I remember someone by that name," the woman said thoughtfully. "She used to come by here sometimes, looking for work. Quiet woman, always polite. I haven't seen her in a while, though." Keanu's pulse quickened. "Do you know where she might have gone?" The florist shook her head. "Sorry, no. But she mentioned trying to get a job at one of the warehouses nearby. Said she needed steady work." Keanu thanked her and headed in the direction she had indicated. The warehouses were a stark contrast to the bustling streets he had just left, their towering structures casting long shadows over the quiet area. He approached the first one, a large distribution center, and asked to speak with the manager. The manager, a gruff man with a clipboard in hand, looked skeptical when Keanu explained why he was there. "We get a lot of people coming through here looking for work," he said. "But I'll check the records." After a few minutes, the manager returned, shaking his head. "No one by that name here. Sorry." Keanu moved on to the next warehouse, and then the next, each visit ending in frustration. By the time the sun began to set, he was no closer to finding Elena than he had been that morning. But he refused to give up. As he drove back toward the city, his phone buzzed. It was Lisa. "Keanu, I might have something," she said. "I checked the shelters and hospitals in the area, and one shelter reported someone named Elena Rivera staying there briefly a few weeks ago. But she left after a couple of nights and didn't leave any forwarding information." Keanu sighed, a mix of relief and frustration. "At least we know she's been around. Did they say where she might have gone?" "No," Lisa replied, "but they did mention she seemed worried about someone following her. Maybe she was running from something." Keanu's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Thanks, Lisa. I'll check it out." As he hung up, Keanu's mind raced. If Elena was running from someone, it could explain why she hadn't returned to Maya. But it also meant she might be in danger. He had to find her, and soon. The next day, Keanu returned to the shelter Lisa had mentioned. The staff there were kind, but didn't have much more information to offer. One volunteer remembered Elena mentioning a friend she was trying to contact but couldn't recall the name. Keanu left the shelter feeling a mix of determination and unease. He decided to revisit the streets where he had found Maya, hoping to uncover more clues. As he walked, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Turning a corner, he caught a glimpse of a figure darting into an alley. Keanu's instincts kicked in, and he followed. The alley was narrow and dimly lit, lined with overflowing trash bins and graffiti-covered walls. At the far end, he saw a man leaning against the wall, his eyes narrowing as Keanu approached. "Can I help you?" the man asked, his tone guarded. "I'm looking for someone," Keanu said evenly. "A woman named Elena Rivera. Have you seen her?" The man smirked, his expression cold. "Maybe. What's it to you?" Keanu's jaw tightened. "She's trying to find her daughter. If you know anything, Now's the time to talk. The man's smirk faltered for a moment before he straightened, his demeanor shifting to something more threatening. I don't know what you're talking about. And even if I did, it's not your business. Keanu stood his ground, his eyes locked on the man. It is my business now. If she's in trouble, I need to know. The man glared at him for a long moment before muttering something under his breath and walking away. Keanu watched him go, his gut telling him the man knew more than he was letting on. But without more to go on, he had no choice but to let him go. As night fell, Keanu returned to the safe house to check on Maya. She was sitting with Clara, a book in her lap, but her face lit up when she saw him. "Did you find her?" she asked eagerly. "Not yet," Keanu admitted, crouching beside her. "But I'm getting closer. I promise I won't stop until I do." Maya nodded, her trust in him unwavering. Keanu stayed with her until she fell asleep, her small hand clutching his as if afraid to let go. As he left the room, Clara approached him. "You look exhausted," she said gently. "You can't do this all on your own." Keanu shook his head. "I have to. For Maya. She deserves to have her mom back." Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Just don't lose yourself in the process. You're doing a good thing, but you need to take care of yourself too." Keanu nodded, though his mind was already on the next steps. He knew he was running out of time. Whatever had happened to Elena, he needed to find her before it was too late. Keanu woke up the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, but he felt the clock ticking louder with every passing moment. Elena's mention of someone following her had stuck in his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that whoever she had been running from was still out there. If he didn't find her soon, it might be too late, not just for her, but for Maya as well. He started the day with a call to Lisa, updating her on his progress and asking her to dig deeper into police reports or any record of Elena Rivera being in danger. "I'll do my best," Lisa assured him. "But Keanu, if she's running from someone, she might not want to be found. Be careful." "I will," Keanu replied, though he wasn't sure he could heed her warning. The thought of Maya's hopeful face drove him forward, no matter the risk. Keanu decided to revisit the alley where he had encountered the suspicious man the day before. Something about the encounter didn't sit right with him. As he retraced his steps through the narrow streets, his instincts were on high alert. The alley seemed quiet, too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. He was about to turn back when he noticed a scrap of paper on the ground near the spot where the man had stood. Picking it up, he saw a hastily scribbled address. It wasn't far, just a few blocks away, and his gut told him it wasn't a coincidence. Keanu made his way to the address, a rundown apartment building with peeling paint and boarded-up windows. The place exuded an air of neglect, but the faint sound of voices from inside told him it wasn't abandoned. He hesitated for a moment, then pushed open the creaky front door. The smell of damp and mildew hit him as he stepped into the dimly lit hallway. He moved cautiously, his ears straining to pick up any clues. At the end of the hall, he heard a voice, low, gruff, and angry. "You think you can just disappear, Elena? You owe us, and we always collect." Keanu's blood ran cold. He edged closer, careful not to make a sound. Peeking around the corner, he saw a small, dingy room where a man stood towering over a woman who was huddled on the floor. Her face was pale and gaunt, but Keanu recognized her instantly from Maya's description. "Elena," he whispered to himself. The man continued his tirade, oblivious to Keanu's presence. "You're lucky we haven't found your kid yet. You think you're protecting her by running? Think again." Keanu's hands clenched into fists. He couldn't wait any longer. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the room. "Hey!" he called out, his voice firm and commanding. The man spun around, his eyes narrowing at the sight of Keanu. "Who the hell are you?" Keanu took a step forward, his calm demeanor masking the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I'm the guy who's going to make sure you leave her alone." The man sneered. "You don't know what you're messing with. This is none of your business." "It is now," Keanu said evenly, his eyes never leaving the man's. "Walk away, or you'll regret it." For a moment, the man seemed to consider his options. Then, with a growl of frustration, he backed toward the door. "This isn't over," he spat before disappearing into the hallway. Keanu turned to Elena, who was trembling but otherwise unharmed. He crouched down beside her, his voice softening. "Elena? I'm Keanu. Maya's safe. She's been looking for you." At the mention of her daughter's name, Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Maya," she whispered. "Is she really okay?" "She's safe with my friend Clara at a safe house," Keanu assured her. "But we need to get you out of here. Can you walk?" Elena nodded shakily, and with Keanu's help, she got to her feet. They left the apartment building quickly, Keanu's arms steadying her as they made their way to his motorcycle. He handed her his helmet and helped her onto the back, keeping a watchful eye on their surroundings. The ride to the safe house was tense but uneventful. When they arrived, Clara was waiting outside, her expression a mix of relief and worry. Maya, who had been playing in the yard, looked up and froze. Then, with a cry of joy, she ran toward her mother. "Mom!" Maya sobbed, throwing her arms around Elena. Elena dropped to her knees, holding Maya tightly as tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "I never wanted to leave you. I thought I was protecting you." Keanu watched the reunion from a few steps away, his heart heavy yet full. He felt Clara's hand on his arm and turned to see her smiling at him. "You did it," she said softly. "It's not over yet," Keanu replied. "Whoever that man was, he's not going to stop. We need to make sure they're both safe." Over the next few days, Keanu worked with Lisa and Clara to secure temporary housing for Elena and Maya in a safe location. Elena opened up about the circumstances that had forced her to run. Debts she had been coerced into by a predatory group that now sought to use her daughter as leverage. Keanu listened patiently, his determination to protect them growing stronger with every word. Using his connections, Keanu arranged for legal aid to help Elena escape her situation permanently. The process would be long and difficult, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope. On their last night at the safe house, Keanu sat with Maya in the common room while Elena spoke with Clara. Maya looked up at him, her dark eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for finding my mom," she said softly. "I was so scared I'd never see her again." Keanu smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "You're a brave kid, Maya, and your mom loves you more than anything. She just needed some help, that's all." Maya nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Are you going to stay with us?" Keanu hesitated, his heart aching at the question. "I can't stay forever," he said gently, "but I'll always be here if you need me." The next morning, Keanu helped Elena and Maya pack their things. As they prepared to leave for their new home, Elena turned to Keanu, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You saved us." Keanu shook his head. "You saved yourselves. I just helped a little." As they drove away, Keanu stood outside the safe house, watching until their car disappeared from view. He felt a profound sense of peace, knowing they were safe and on their way to a better future. For Maya and Elena, it was a new beginning. And for Keanu, it was a reminder that even small acts of kindness could change lives in ways he could never have imagined.